is the other? Very sharp. Tired today.
Yeah, so instead of being 2 hours, it'll be an hour and a half.
Inshallah. I'll give it a name afterwards. Just put like Friday Night Lecture. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions hadith number 733 in Silsilat al-Ahadith al-Sahihah. It's a hadith of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhuma. And the scholars differ over the authenticity of this hadith because of the narrator Ibn Wahab from the Ashab of Malik, the well-known scholar from the latter Tabi'een. He reported in his Jami' from Ibn Lahiya. Ibn Lahiya was a scholar from the ulama of Ahl Sunnah in Egypt at the time of Imam Shafi'i, at the time of Al-Layth ibn Sa'ad. Imam Shafi'i was from the Tabi'een, the third generation, successors of the successors. And he was from the Imams of the Sunnah, but the scholars, they differ over whether his ahadith or when his ahadith can be graded to be authentic, because in the end of his life, his home burned down and his books perished with his home. And he started to memorize much of what he started to narrate much of what he memorized from memory without referring back to his books. And he started to confuse some affairs that the nuqqad of Ahl Sunnah, Ahl al-Hadith wal-Athar noticed. So they graded many of his ahadith to be weak, especially the people who reported from him later on. Whatever the case, he is the narrator from Ibn Wahab in this narration. Reports from Al-Harith ibn Yazid and Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. Reports from Al-Harith ibn Yazid from Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the shortest chain of narration for this particular hadith. It is mentioned, as we said again, by Ibn Wahab in his book Al-Jami'. Al-Jami', which was one of the earlier books of hadith. And as you see, there are only a few narrators between Ibn Wahab and the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for this. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala, he said likewise the same chain of narration was reported by Ahmed, or rather it was reported by Ahmed, the similar chain of narration, and by others. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala said, وَهَذَا سَنَدٌ حَسَنٌ بَلْ صَحِيح. This chain of narration is Hasan, rather it is Sahih. فَإِنَّ إِبْنَ لَهِيعَةَ وَإِنْ كَانَ ضَعِيفًا فَإِنَّهُ مِنْ رِوَايَةِ عَبْدِ اللَّهِ بْنِ وَهَبْ عَنْهُ وَهِيَ صَحِيحَةٌ. He said in general the narrations of Ibn Lahi'a from the Abadila, from them were Abdullah bin Wahab, they were authentic, and so this narration is Hasan, but rather it is Sahih. And a number of scholars have said that this hadith is weak, but it is also reported as a statement of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As in the book Al-Adab al-Mufrad of Al-Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala, with an authentic chain of transmission as a statement of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. So it's reported marfu'an wa mawqufan. Marfu' raised to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a mawquf form, a statement attributed to the Sahaba. And in both forms, we can say that there are authentic chains of narrations for them. And this hadith we are about to read was explained by a number of the people of knowledge. We'll read, inshallah, some of the explanation of Shaykh Zayd ibn Muhammad bin Hadi al-Madkhali rahmatullahi alayhi, and some benefits from an article that was recently written by Shaykh Abdul Razak ibn Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad hafidhahullah ta'ala, that is entitled Arba'u Rakaiz Lit-Tajir al-Muslim. 4 rakaiz, 4 centrifugal pillars, 4 matters of focus for the Muslim merchant. 4 matters of focus for the Muslim merchant. The Prophet ﷺ in this hadith of Abdullah bin Amr, he said, Arba'un إذا كنا فيك فلا عليك ما فاتك من الدنيا. He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, there are 4 affairs that so long as you possess them, so long as they are within you, فلا عليك ما فاتك من الدنيا, that nothing is against you, nothing can harm you, that you miss out on in the dunya. Meaning that these 3 or these 4 things rather, they are more precious than any amount of money. And that if a person finds himself in a situation to compromise one of these 4 things in order to try to get more money, they should prefer to have these 4 things over any amount of money. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, حفظ amana wa sidqu hadith, to safeguard your amana, to safeguard your trustworthiness, wa sidqu hadith, and truthfulness in speech, wa husnu khaliqa, and good character, having a good disposition, wa iffatun fit tu'mah, and purity, chastity in one's sustenance and one's food, meaning that a person does not feed himself from the haram. Iffa wal iffatu wa iffatun fi tu'mah, that a person is chaste in their foodstuff and their what they eat. They don't feed themselves and their family from haram earnings. Shaykh Zaidi said that this narration, it contains a targheeb and an encouragement that which incites us as regards the virtues of 4 types of actions. And these 4 actions, they are from the most majestic and important of actions. التي يتقرب بها العبد إلى الله, that the slave comes close to Allah and draws near to Allah تبارك وتعالى with. حتى لو فاته الشيء الكثير من دنياه, even if it requires for him, in order to safeguard these 4 qualities, to miss out on very much of his dunya, very much in this world. وقد أحرز هذه الأربع الخصال, so long as he is safeguarding these 4 qualities, فهو المغبوط, and he is the one that people should really envy, because he has these 4 qualities. وَقَدْ مَلَأَ قَلْبَهُ وَيَدَيْهِ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ, and he has filled his heart and his hands with goodness. حُسْنُ الْخَلِيقَةِ. There's a different order in the narration that is in mawquf form of Abdullah ibn Amr. In Al-Adab al-Mufrad, he begins with حُسْنُ الْخَلِيقَةِ, with good character. He said what is meant by by it is حُسْنُ الْخُلُقِ, good character. حُسْنُ الْخَلِيقَةِ is حُسْنُ الْخُلُقِ. وهو موضوع الأحاديث السابقة. He said, and this is the subject matter of the ahadith that I mentioned before, this hadith in Al-Adab al-Mufrad by Bukhari. وقد تم الحديث عن فضله ومكانة صاحبه الرفيعة وأنه كالشامة بين الناس. He said, and we have heard the virtues of good character before, and the status, the high status of the person who has good character, and his lofty position between the people. وَعِفَافُ تُعْمَةِ, and being chaste in one's food and what one eats and feeds herself with. أي صاحب عفاف في المأكل والمشرب والمسكن والملبس, meaning the person, he stays away from the haram as regards his food and his drink, as regards his home, and as regards his clothing. قد اقتصر على الحلال في كل ذلك ونبذ الحرام, and he has limited himself to the halal as regards all of these things, and he has cast the haram to the side. وصدق حديث, and truthfulness in speech. أي لا يتحدث إلا بصدق مع حجر الكذب وما يشبهه الكذب وما لا فائدة فيه من الكلام. He doesn't speak except with truth, and he abandons and flees and shuns al-kadhib, and anything that is similar to lying, and that which has no benefit in it of speech. بل تجده صادقا في حديثه فيما يتعلق بأمر الدين وفي حديثه فيما يتعلق بأمر الدنيا لا يكذب. As regards the affairs of the religion, you find him truthful in what he says, he doesn't lie. As regards the affairs of the dunya, likewise you find him truthful and he doesn't lie. And he is truthful in all of his affairs. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as we know, he ordered us and extolled the virtues of as-sidq, and he of truthfulness, when he said, alaykum bis-sidq, I advise you with truthfulness. Upon you is to be truthful, for verily as-sidq yahdi ila al-birr wal-birr yahdi ila al-jannah. And truthfulness leads to righteousness, and righteousness leads to the paradise. And I warn you of al-kadhib, and I warn you of lying, for verily al-kadhib leads to wickedness, and wickedness leads to the fire. He said, as for hifdhul amana, as for safeguarding one's trust, then it is, al-amana is a general word. It is a general term. تشمل ما لله من حقوق على العباد. It includes all of the rights of Allah upon His slaves. And this is what was mentioned by al-Munawi rahimahullah ta'ala in Faith al-Qadir, the explanation of al-Jami al-Saghir. And that al-amana here is something that is inclusive of the entire religion. Everything from the rights of Allah is from al-amana. Everything that has been obligated upon the mukallafeen, upon those that are charged with more responsibility, whether male or female, it is from al-amana, which Allah has obligated of wajibat, and what He has forbidden of al-maharim, forbidden acts, it is from al-amana. كل ذلك أمانة يجب حفظها بالقيام بها على الوجه الصحيح. All of that is from the amana that a person must safeguard and undertake in a correct way. As for the ma'murat, as for what has been ordered by Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then a person must necessarily put them into practice and act upon them if they are from the obligatory acts. And it is recommended for a person to be diligent upon them if they are from the mandubat, if they are from the recommended acts. As for the muharramat, then it is mandatory to stay far away from them, because the maharim of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala are the sanctities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that cannot be violated. Every ma'asiyah that angers Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, then abandoning it out of ijlal for Allah tabarak wa ta'ala is mandatory. Out of veneration of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mandatory. And it is mandatory to abandon it out of fear of the punishment of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. And this is an amana. As regards what is connected to the rights of the creation, كالوداع وحفظ الأسرار, like that which is left in the care of people and the secrets that are divulged to people, then it is mandatory to keep them and to safeguard them, to protect the secrets of the people and the property of the people that is left in a person's care. والصدق في الأخوة الإيمانية بالوفاء بها في حدود الشريعة البيضاء النقية. He said likewise, a sidq is something that goes beyond that, and al-amana is something that goes beyond that. From al-amana is being genuine as regards the brotherhood of faith and fulfilling the rights of brotherhood. بالوفاء بها في حدود الشريعة البيضاء النقية. And a person must fulfill the rights of brotherhood within the boundaries of the pure Sharia of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. Just as it is mandatory for a person to be adamant upon fulfilling the rights of those people that are outside of the fold of Islam. He said, وفق العهود والمواثيق المبرمة بينهم. He said, according to the covenants and the contracts of non-aggression or business or trade or whatever that exists between them that they have agreed upon. Because Islam is a religion of al-wafa, bidhalik, and you are fulfilling that and being loyal to one's word and one's oaths and one's trust. As is come in the hadith, أد الأمانة إلى من ائتمنك ولا تخن من خانك. The hadith collected by Abu Dawood and at-Tirmidhi, the hadith of Abi Hurairah, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, fulfill the amana to the one that trusts you. Fulfill the trust of the one who entrusts you with an affair, and do not betray those that betray you. He said, all this is from good character. So it is for the person to abide by these four characteristics that are from the most virtuous of characteristics that bring the person close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shaykh Abdul Razak al-Abad, he said this hadith is azim. This narration is tremendous. Jadirun bikulli tajirin muslim an yata'ammalah. And it is befitting for every Muslim merchant to contemplate upon this narration. وَأَن يَكُونَ نُصْبَ عَيْنَيْهِ. And for this hadith to be the center of his focus. بَلْ يَنْبَغِي أَن يُشَاعَ بَيْنَ التُّجَّارِ وَفِي الْمَحَلَّاتِ التِّجَارِيَّةِ وبين شركات حتى يصحي لمن اشتغل بالتجارة مساره وطريقته في البيع والشراء والتعامل. He said, and it should be spread between the merchants. The merchants should remind themselves of this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that the person who has these four things, as long as he has them, then nothing that he loses out on in this dunya can harm him in any way. He said this should be spread amongst the merchants, and it should be spread and distributed and disseminated within the places within the marketplaces and so on and so forth, and between the companies and the businesses of the people, so that the person who busies herself with tijara can correct their method of business as regards buying and selling and dealing with others. He said, وَذَلِكَ بِأَن تَكُونَ هَذِهِ الْأُمُورَ الْأَرْبَعَةِ أُسُسًا ثَابِتَةً عِنْدَهُ. He said, so these four affairs, they can be firmly rooted foundations with him, that he doesn't compromise in, no matter what the profit may be. Meaning that as he goes about his business and his trade, that he looks at each of these four things, and if he has to choose between violating his trust or making more money, or if he has to choose between being dishonest or exaggerating or telling untruths or telling flat out lies or making more money, or if he has to choose between having good character and good dealings with the people or making more money, or he has to choose between consuming wealth that is doubtful or haram or making more money, then he knows that so long as he has these four qualities, then nothing that he misses out on in the dunya could ever harm him. And this is tremendous. He said, فَفِي الْحَدِيث معالجة حكيمة وعظيمة جدا للفساد الكبير الذي يحصل لأخلاق الناس عند الإقبال على الدنيا وحطامها والتجارة واكتساب المال وطلب الأرباح. He said in this hadith is a wise, tremendous, extremely tremendous cure for the great corruption that occurs in the morality and the character of the people when they turn towards the dunya and towards the possessions of this world, and when they turn towards business and trade and earning their wealth and seeking profit in their money. وأنه لا سلامة من ذلك إلا بأن يحافظ التاجر على هذه الأسس الأربعة المذكورة في الحديث. And the person realizes that there is no way to be safe as regards his religion and his character unless he safeguards these four usus, and these four raka'is, these four centrifugal affairs. These affairs of great importance that I mentioned in the hadith. وَيَحْرِصُ عَلَىٰ أَنْ لَا يَخْرِمُ مِنْهَا شَيْئًا. And he is to be adamant upon not violating any of these four affairs. وَيَجْعَلُهَا بِمَثَابَةِ الرَّكَائِزِ الَّتِي لَا يَقْبَلُ أَيَّ تَضِيُّعُ. I should say تَضِيُّعُ. And he says, and he makes them matters that are of the utmost importance, that are inexcusable to squander and to neglect. ثم هو لا يبالي إن فاته شيء من الدنيا في سبيل محافظته على هذه الركائز. And then he finds within himself that he doesn't care if he misses out on something of the dunya because he is safeguarding these four affairs that are more valuable to him than the dunya. حتى وإن كان بين يديه مكاسب كبيرة وأرباح كثيرة فإنها لا تحطم شيئا من هذه الأسس. He said even if he has the opportunity to make a lot of money and he has the opportunity to make great profits, then no amount of money will allow him to destroy these foundations. مستحضرا دوما قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فلا عليك ما فاتك من الدنيا. And he constantly finds within himself that he is contemplating and that he is recalling and thinking about the statement of the Prophet ﷺ that nothing is upon him that he misses of the dunya, nothing is against him, nothing will harm him that he misses of the dunya, so long as he has these four qualities within himself. فهو غير مبال بما يفوته من الدنيا في سبيل محافظته وتمسكه بهذه الخلال الجليلة والخصال العظيمة المذكورة في الحديث. والإنسان يمتحن امتحانا شديدا في هذه الأمور الأربعة. He said, and the person is tested greatly as regards these four affairs when he enters into the realm of business and trade. فأحيانا تعرض له أرباح كثيرة مغرية جدا. Sometimes he sees an opportunity to make a lot of profit, and it is a great temptation for him. لكنها تحتاج منه إلى أن يكذب. But the only way to get it is to tell some type of lie, or يغش, or to commit some type of treachery, or نحو ذلك, or the likes of that. فيدخل في مساومة مع نفسه. So he starts to barter with himself. He starts to bargain with himself and weigh the harms and the benefits of this thing. Is it worth it? For you to lie, for you to cheat, for you to deceive, for you to tell untruths, for you to exaggerate, so on and so forth, or to make that money that you want to make? Is it worth it to lose any of these four qualities to get that? And so a person, he makes al-musawama, he looks and he weighs between his options. What is the better deal that he can make? To have more money or to lose his integrity? هل يحصل هذا الربح بمثل هذه المسالك أم يقول كما دل الحديث? He asked himself, is he going to get this profit by taking these means? Or is he going to tell himself what the hadith demonstrates to him? Is he going to say to himself, لا علي ما فاتني من الدنيا, and he is not going to harm me what I miss out on in the dunya? وَلْتَبْقَ لِهَذِهِ الْأُسُسِ, so long as I maintain these four things. حتى لو كان في ظاهر الأمر أنه لن يربح وأنه يخسر صفقة أو التجارة أو يفوته شيء من الأرباح والمكاسب. And even if a person knows and he sees that it's apparent to him that unless he does one of these things, he's not going to make any profit in his business, and that he's going to lose out on a deal or lose out on a business transaction or lose out on something of earnings and so on and so forth, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى يُعَوِّضُهُ خَيْرًا, and Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He knows, will replace it with something better. لأن الرزق والفضل بيده سبحانه وتعالى, because the rizq, the sustenance and the fadl is in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فلا عليك ما فاتك من الدنيا يعد ضمانا للتاجر. The statement of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, it's not going to harm you what you miss out on in the dunya. This is considered as a guarantee for the merchant, a guarantee upon the tongue of the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم, that nothing that you miss out on the dunya will harm you so long as you have these four things. أي فلا تأسى على ما فات من الربح وإن كبر ولا تأسف. And don't be sad and don't regret what you miss out on the profit, no matter how much it may be. فإنك في خير وغنيمة حتى وإن فاتك هذا المال, because you have profited greatly even if you lose this money. ولك العوض المبارك من الله سبحانه وتعالى, and Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala replace it with something that is blessed. ولهذا ينبغي على كل من يقدم على التجارة أن يتنبه لهذه الأسس الأربعة العظيمة وأن تكون ثابتة عنده. So every person that engages in business and trade, they need to be aware of these four fundamental affairs that are tremendous, and these things must be firmly planted with him. The first of them is حفظ أمانة, safeguarding his trust. It means that he is أمين في تعاملته, لا يغش ولا يخدع ولا يمكر, and he is trustworthy in his dealings. He doesn't trick anyone, he doesn't deceive anyone, he doesn't plot, he doesn't scheme. أمين في حفظ حقوق الناس, and he is trustworthy as regards to safeguarding the rights of the people. وفي إعادة أموالهم, and returning their money back to them. فلا يضيع حقوق الناس بل يرعى للأمانة حقها. He doesn't neglect and squander the rights of the people, but rather he renders the trust back to the people. وقد يبتلى الإنسان عندما يدخل باب التجارة ويمتحن هل يحافظ على الأمانة. So the person may be tested when they enter into business and trade, and they may be tried. Is he going to safeguard al-amana? Is he going to safeguard his trust, his responsibility? أم يضيعها في سبيل أن يحصل مالا أو يحصل شيئا من حطام الدنيا. So he is tested. Is he going to safeguard his amana, or is he going to neglect it for the sake of getting some wealth or something from the property of this world? And many of the people يسقط في هذا الامتحان, and they collapse, they fail as regards this test, and they squander their trustworthiness for the sake of earning money. وعرضا من عرض الدنيا ومتاعها الزائل, and or something of the property of this world or its fleeting enjoyment. ومن الناس من يتعامل بالأمانة في حدود ضيقة وَفِي مَصَالِحَ مَحْدُودَةٍ. Some people, they, in a very limited way, do business with trustworthiness, and in a trustworthy fashion, in a very limited way, and for a set number of masalih, of personal benefits for themselves. وهو يتعامل بالأمانة في حدود من يعامله بها جزاء له من جنس عمله. For example, they may only be trustworthy with those people that are trustworthy towards them, people that have not betrayed them, people that have not schemed against them, people that have not conspired against them, tricked them, deceived them, so on and so forth. And so they repay the trustworthiness of that person by being trustworthy in dealing with that person. فَإِذَا وَجَدَ عَمِينًا عَامَلَهُ بِالْأَمَانِ. If he finds a person that is trustworthy and he deals with him in a trustworthy fashion. وَإِذَا وَجَدَ خَائِنًا عَامَلَهُ بِالْخِيَانَةِ. When he finds a person is treacherous, then he feels that it is okay for him to deceive such a person or to betray such a person. وَلَيْسَ هَذَا شَأْنَ الْمُؤْمِنِ. And this is not the affair of the believer. And the Musnad, Imam Ahmad, and then other than it, with an authentic chain of narration, in the hadith of Anas ibn Malik, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أَدِّ الْأَمَانَةَ إِلَى مَنْ أَأْتَمَنَكَ وَلَا تَخُنْ مَنْ خَانَكَ. Render the trust back to those that have entrusted you with affairs, and do not betray those who betray you. فَالْأَمَانَ مَطْلُوبَ فِي كُلِّ وَقْتٍ وَحِينٍ. And so it is something that is desired and sought after at every time and every place and every instance. وَفِي جَمِيعِ الْأَحْوَالِ وَهِيَ مَمْدُوحَةٌ فِي جَمِيعِ أَحْوَالِهَا. And every situation it is praiseworthy. And treachery and betraying is something that is blameworthy and disgusting and hideous and reprehensible, no matter what the situation. For this reason, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَلَا تَخُنْ مَنْ خَانَكَ. Do not betray the one who betrays you. So you find a person in the workplace, and they were ripped off on some hours and some overtime and so on and so forth. And so they say, well, this is worth about $300, and that's what they owe me. And to the home it goes with me. And a person, they find that a person owes them some money, and they've been negligent in paying their debt, so on and so forth. So they say, well, it's a nice iPhone laying on his seat right there. Take the iPhone. And people, they justify all sorts of things in their minds, saying that they can betray somebody who betrayed them, or they could trick somebody who tricked them, and these sorts of things. He said the second thing is sidqu hadith, and it being truthful in speech, meaning that he does not lie and he is cautious as regards his truthfulness. When he speaks to the people as regards his business and his trade, his buying and his selling, he's always truthful. It was one of the narrators in the early generation, one of the Salihin who lived in the time of the Tabi'een. It was said to al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi that this man never lies. This man never lies. And Hajjaj was recruiting people to be in the army. And the army of Hajjaj was fighting against other Muslims at that time. And so he said, the man has never lied. He'll never tell a lie about anything. He said, we're going to see about that today. And so they went to his home. And Hajjaj wanted to recruit his two sons to fight in the army alongside him against other Muslims. And he mentioned the names of his sons. He said, where is your son so and so and so and so? He opened the door. He said, they're right there. He said, wallahi, they're right there. So Hajjaj respected the man for that. He respected the man for that. And then he didn't require his sons to fight alongside him. Ala kullin, and the Salaf, they were very cautious as regards any things that could be considered even ma'arith. Ma'arith is where a person can say something that can be construed in different ways. And you kind of leave it open for a person. You leave it open to interpretation. You could take it like this, you could take it like that. In situations of necessity and dire need, And it is permissible in general. I need to say these sorts of things. But many of the scholars, they have mentioned that a person must be very cautious. Not only do it by necessity, only do those sorts of things by necessity. Like for example, they asked the Prophet ﷺ where he was from when he was going out for Badr. So where are you from? He said, I'm from al-ma, from water. Right? So the person who asked, they just imagine that this must be some hay, some village or some tribe or something that I've never heard about. Right? Because if he said, I'm from Yathrib, I'm from Medina, the person will put two and two together. When the uyun, when the spies come out for the armies of the Quraysh and so on and so forth, they're going to say, yeah, they were just over here. Right? But when they went off for Badr, they weren't even anticipating to fight. So they didn't have armor on, they didn't have a cavalry, so on and so forth. They were anticipating to go out and to intercept the caravan of the Quraysh. Hakada. So there are different examples of the scholars they mention of what is called al-Ma'arith, but they say even in situations like this, a person should be very careful, because if a person feels as though you have lied to them or you have misled them, then your honor is something that can never be restored with them. And your honor must be more valuable to you than squandering it and neglecting it and letting it be lost. Your word must mean something to you. He says, so the person is truthful in his speech. And he says to himself, ماذا يغنيني إذا كسبت من هذا ريالا ومن ذلك ريالين أو 10 أو 1000 أو أكثر وضع مني خلق الصدق وأصبحت كذابا. When he's tempted to lie or to be dishonest in his business transactions and in his dealings and so on and so forth, then he asks himself, what do I gain if I earn a couple dollars? He says here a couple reals. I earn a couple reals, I earn a couple dollars, I need 2 or 3 or 10 or 1,000 or more than that. If I have lost my truthfulness, or I have lost my integrity like this. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام إياك والكذب فإن الكذب يهدي إلى الفجور والفجور يهدي إلى النار. The Prophet ﷺ warned that lying leads to wickedness and wickedness leads to the fire. He believes that the rizq is in the hand of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and these affairs that he may lose, the things of the dunya, and they are not more valuable to him than his truthfulness and his integrity. So these first two things that I mentioned in the hadith are the 4 things. are from the utmost of importance. The point of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Al-ba'i'an bi khiyar ma lam yatafarraqa." Two people in a business transaction, they have the khiyar, the right to separate company without finishing the business transaction, and they have the choice to back out of the transaction or not, so long as they have not separated paths. So long as the person has not taken their goods, and the person has not taken either his money or an agreement for the money, or debt, and he has been written, so on and so forth, the likes of these things. He said, فَإِن صَدَقَ وَبَيَّنَا, and if they tell the truth and they clarify what needs to be clarified, meaning if there are any uyub, if there are any defects, if there's anything that needs to be known, if there's any stipulations that were supposed to be part of the contract, that those things were clarified. A person doesn't come later on and say, "Oh yeah, I forgot Kether. I forgot about the transmission is going out." Right? This is a beautiful house. I forgot to tell you that the foundation is crumbling. Right? But you just deal with that. It's not that difficult. Right? And they have to clarify everything that needs to be clarified. Any type of conditions, any type of uyub, defects, faults in the thing, so on and so forth. Even included in that is in marriage. The scholars, they say, in marriage, and the uyub that can harm, that are dhara, that are harmful to the other person, or munafira, or make a person not want to be with somebody. Like, sister, you didn't tell me you had 6 toes on each feet, on each foot. Like, I probably still married you, but I would have at least wanted to know that you had 12 toes, right? Sister, you didn't tell me that you had, an extra finger. You didn't tell me that, this, that, or the third. And people, they hold certain things. They don't divulge certain things about their appearance or about their health or other things that are very important. And this is also included in that. The Prophet ﷺ said, فَإِن صَدَقَا وَبَيَّنَا, if they tell the truth and they clarify what is necessary to clarify, بُورِكَ لَهُمَا فِي بَيْعِهِمَا, and then they will be blessed in their transaction. Meaning that as-sidq wal-amana is the basis of an Islamic economy. Upon barakah in one's money is built upon these two qualities I mentioned here, as-sidq wal-amana, and that a person is truthful and that they are trustworthy as regards their dealings. وَإِن كَذَبَ وَكَتَمَ, and if they lie and conceal things, مُحِقَتْ بَرَكَةُ بَيْعِهِمَا, then the blessing of their business transaction will be destroyed, it will be lost. The third thing that is mentioned here is where many people go off track. وَحُسْنُ خَلِيقَةٍ, and the best of places are the masajid, the worst of places are the aswaq, or the marketplaces. The people of the masajid, they have certain akhlaqiyat and sulukiyat and so on and so forth, and certain mannerisms about themselves, and the people of the marketplaces also have certain mannerisms about themselves. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا يلني منكم أولو الأحلام والنهى ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم وإياكم وحيشات الأسواق. Let there stand immediately behind me in the salat. And the scholars, they mention it also means even in the majalis. The people of intelligence and foresight. People of intelligence and foresight, the most knowledgeable and intelligent people, were the closest of people to the Prophet and the people that are put in the front of the sittings and the gatherings out of respect for their status. And then those that are next to them, those are closest to being like them, then those who are closest to being like them. He said, and I warn you of the hayshat al-aswaq, and of the behavior of the marketplace. Where? In the masjid. So you see people, they come into the masjid acting like merchants, coming into the masjid acting like, the people in the marketplace, hollering and screaming and fighting and laughing and joking and, entertaining themselves and conversating and the other things that happen in the marketplace that are from al-laghat, and they are from any clamor and making noise and useless speech and so on and so forth. And so the marketplace by itself is something that has an effect upon a person's character. Has an effect upon a person's character. And we say this bearing in mind that when the Prophet ﷺ cautioned the people behaving like the people of the marketplace in the masjid, that in the early generations of Islam, it was those people in the marketplace that were the cause of the spread of Islam to a majority of the lands. Many lands, no Muslim army ever reached. No Muslim army ever reached Indonesia. No Muslim army ever reached Malaysia. No Muslim army ever reached many of the islands in Southeast Asia and many other places the scholars mentioned. They were reached by the Tujjar. That's why if you go to some places like in Yemen, for example, go to Aden and Hadramaut, you'll see people that look 100%. They look 100% Filipino or Malaysian and so on and so forth. And you will ask them about their nasab. And they'll say, we're 100% Yemeni going back for thousands of years. Pre-Islam. I tried to go back pre-Islam. But they intermarried with the Filipinos and the Malaysians and so on and so forth. Through what? Through the trade routes, through the ports and so on and so forth, through doing business with them, through those people coming into Islam and the likes of these affairs. And so, in the early days of Islam, these qualities of truthfulness and integrity and trustworthiness and good character was one of the greatest causes of the spread of Islam. It was Islam implemented, put into action, and the people, they could see that the Muslims, they were like this, that the Muslims were people that, they weren't just hermits hiding out in monasteries, and they weren't monks and so on and so forth, hiding out in cathedrals and, shunning the dunya and these sorts of things. But rather the Muslims, they had guidance as regards their religion and as regards the dunya, and how to balance between the affairs of the deen and the dunya. And they had the understanding, as was said by Abdullah bin al-Mubarak, rahmatullahi alayhi. And he said, كُنَّا نَعُدُّ أَفْضَلَ الْعَمَالَ الْكَسْبُ مِنَ الْحَلَالِ وَالْإِنْفَاقُ عَلَى الْعِيَالِ. We used to consider the most virtuous of righteous deeds was to earn halal money and spend it upon your family. Abdullah bin al-Mubarak was from the Imams of the Tujjar. He was from the A'immatul Tujjar in his time. Abdullah bin al-Mubarak was extremely wealthy. He was extremely wealthy, rahmatullahi alayhi. And so, they saw that the Muslims were like this. And that the Salihin, the ulama, and the people, and the righteousness, the people of piety, so on and so forth, that they were doing business, they were doing trade, and engaging in transactions with their neighbors from the non-Muslims and so on and so forth. And they saw the behavior of the Muslims, the integrity of the Muslims, and it's one of the affairs that caused them to enter into the fold of Islam. So many people, they fall as regards this fourth affair of good character. And they find themselves in the marketplace, and from those people who argue and raise their voice and so on and so forth, and figuring that this is what they saw other people doing and this is what works for other people. And you find somebody that they have to barter every dollar, and they have to argue about every dollar. And if something is 5 riyals, you want it for 3, right? So you have to haggle with the person, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And some people, they like to argue about money. And they think that this is the way to save their pennies. This is the way to save every dollar and so on and so forth. And you find that people, they become very petty. And they don't like, between themselves as merchants, they don't like friendly competition. And they say that this person is undercutting me, and this person is making it difficult for me, so on and so forth. A Muslim, he should look when a complaint is leveled about such a thing, and he should say, am I really oppressing a person? Am I really making it hard for my brother to feed his family? These sorts of things. And that's something that he should take into consideration. That even if the issue of a tas'ir, and freezing and controlling the price and fixing the prices, may not apply Islamically to the situation, it may not be mandatory, it may not be something that is even warranted, so on and so forth. And he should look at the situation of his brother, and he should say, is it worth me sacrificing my good character and being a person who is samahan? رحم الله عبدا سمحا إذا باع وإذا اشترى وإذا اقتضى. Allah have mercy upon a man who is easygoing, laid back, calm, when he sells, when he buys, and when he settles his disputes and his debts. Allah have mercy upon that man. Is it worth it? Is it worth it for him to get out of character and he by making it hard for his Muslim brother to earn his money, or by trying to haggle over prices and so on and so forth, and barter everything down to the smallest quarter, squeezing the quarter to the eagle screams, right? Says, let go, akhi. Alhamdulillah, it's not that serious, right? You're choking the dead presidents. They're already dead. You're suffocating them. Right? Let it go. Be samahan, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said, yani be gentle and kind and so on and so forth, and easygoing in your buying and your selling and your settling of your debts. So this is something that is beyond what was mentioned before. And you're being truthful, and being a person with integrity, fulfilling your trust and so on and so forth, is the issue of good character. And how few of the Muslim merchants today have good character. Wallahu al-musta'an wa ilallahi al-mushtaka. We complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as regards that. The fourth thing is iffatun fi tu'amah. And he is that a person is chaste, that they are pure as regards what they feed themselves and their families with. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "La tarbu jismun nabat min suht illa kanat an-naru awla biha." There is no body that grows as a result of illegal earnings, except that the fire is most probably its destination. Except that the fire is probably its most likely destination. And there are four things in general that make money suht, make money illegal earnings. The first of them is what was mentioned before, al-kadhib wal-khadi'ah wal-makr wal-ghish. The likes of those affairs of trickery and deception and lying that make a person's money that he has earned in such a way haram. The second is al-riba. And there's different categories, usury and interest, which many people have become very lackadaisical concerning, to the point that you find that many Muslims have credit cards, many Muslims have cars that have interest that is being paid for them and so on and so forth. They're buying cars of interest, homes on mortgages and interest and so on and so forth, getting equity for their home, the likes of these affairs, student loans with interest, all these sorts of things, and they get into a debt trap, and as long as they're alive, they never pay off their debts. As a matter of fact, some people, they go year after year after year, and they're making regular payments on a weekly basis upon just the interest of their debts. And as a punishment for disobeying Allah and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And just a person making a contract to agree to pay interest, even if they believe that they'll be able to pay it off, is forbidden. Because your signing to it is your muwafaqa. You have agreed to it. And what is the ruling of agreeing to the haram? It's haram. And so many people, they take this affair lightly. The third affair that makes money impermissible is the affair of al-jahala wal-gharar. And you have ambiguity. Ambiguity in the business contract where the terms are not spelled out, so on and so forth. A person says, I'll sell you everything in this paper bag for $15. You don't have a clue what's in that paper bag. It could be a hamster. It could be a gold bracelet. You don't know what's in the paper bag. I'll sell you whatever's in this paper bag for $15. Right? You can't do that. Right? I'll sell you this vehicle for $1,000. You haven't checked out the transmission. You haven't checked out the engine. You haven't checked out all the vital things that make a car a car. All that you see, right? All that you see is what? You just see the body of the car. It has nice tires. You know, he put some turtle wax on it, shined it up, so on and so forth. But there's ambiguity there. There's ambiguity there. You have to know what is pertinent, what is important, what is vital to know about the thing, the commodity or the service that you are buying. So that's the third thing. And the fourth thing, what did I miss? Al-Dhulm. Al-Dhulm. Al-Dhulm can be a number of things. Al-Dhulm is in general anything that violates the right of Allah, the rights of the creation. anything that violates the rights of Allah, the rights of the creation. And so a person helping another person in ma'asiyah, selling him something that he knows that he is going to use to disobey Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, is dhulm. He's oppressing himself and that person. So you find some people, for example, you have brothers that install cable in people's homes, satellite dishes in people's homes, so on and so forth. When I moved here to New Jersey a year and a half ago, the guy that installed my internet, which also has, the same company has cable, so on and so forth, he installs cable in people's homes, he was a Muslim. So you think about the sins and the punishment that a person may incur by helping them in a munkar. And a person who doesn't have any taqwa, a person who doesn't have any cautiousness or any care about the religion, or a person who is a disbeliever, Allah knows what they will be watching on the cable. Allah knows what they'll be watching on the cable. So a person had to be very cautious, to the point that the Shaykh ibn Baz rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, impermissible to clean a church. It's impermissible to work as a security guard in a bank. It's impermissible to work in any place where you come in direct contact with the haram in any way. In direct contact with the haram in any type of way. Some people, they drive semi-trucks. And they have to stipulate, as regards their loads, that they only haul certain things. It's not permissible for them to say, well, I mean, I got, a couple cases of ham back there, but, it's mostly bread and kether, so on and so forth. And he has to have 100% halal on his truck. And what is upon his truck, it can't be impermissible. It can't be something forbidden, so on and so forth. You find some Muslims hauling liquor and alcohol and so on and so forth. Allahu musta'an. And whatever the case, when a person works in a place, and this is the majority of places that people work, where there is some haram and some halal. Shaykh ibn Baz rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, then you have to have what is called tajzi'atul amal. You have to be able to break the work into ajza, into parts, to separate the haram from yourself. So a person, he works in a store where they sell food, where they sell clothes, where they sell automotive products, different things like this. So he stocks the automotive products in the automotive section. But he doesn't work as a stock boy in the grocery section. Right? These sorts of things. A person has to fear Allah tabarak wa ta'ala to the best of their ability. I know that if they leave something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah replaces it with what is better. And we find many people, they put themselves in precarious situations. They say, I have all these years, and then I have benefits, and I have this, and I have that, and I have the third. Or I have this home, and I'm just 5 years from paying it away. But I have interest on it. What do I do? Say, at the end of the day, a majority of people who involve themselves in those things, they knew better. And there was something, fi nafsihim, minha shay, they found something that moved in their chest and made them uncomfortable when they involved themselves in that thing to begin with. And they find themselves in a position where they must leave the thing for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they know that if they leave it for Allah, Allah will give them what is better. And they know that safeguarding these 4 things that I mentioned here by the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I mentioned here in the statement of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhuma, that these 4 things are more valuable to him than anything that he misses out on in the dunya. This hadith, wallahi, is tremendous if we were to sit and contemplate upon it and look at how many people in the world that we live in today are willing to violate their integrity, are willing to violate their trustworthiness, are willing to violate and tarnish their good character, are willing to violate the boundaries as regards what they feed themselves and their families with, of sustenance and so on and so forth. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to rectify the affairs of the Muslims and to aid them as regards this tremendous test, as regards the affairs of the dunya. For verily every ummah has a fitna, and the fitna of this nation is the money. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد